Hello, everybody. It's time for Tech Talk Thursday. Woo! There you go. I love it when you get excited too, Neil. With no one else than Neil Richmond, because he is your connectable guru. If he doesn't know about technology, nobody does.
Well, that might be a stretch.
Well, I think
many departments I don't venture into, but there's lots that I see on a regular basis. So I got a few thoughts on a few things.
A few thoughts on a few things. That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Technology is ever changing. Yeah. And whenever I put that out there today or yesterday, or maybe both,
whatever day
the responses that I got was, the biggest problem is technology is ever changing. And how do you deal with constantly getting to know that new technology and relearning and just having the time to explore and know what's out there?
Yeah.
So,
well, here's the quick answer on that. Programs need to have somebody on the team who loves to do this. And it's as simple as that, because if they love to do it, a lot of this is fun. It's not a chore. Now, I know some of you listening to this, watching this, are going, oh my goodness, poke me in the eye with a sharp stick repeatedly before you put me in front of new technology. That's very common. I see that all the time. But there are some of us who absolutely love that. Like when there's a new update to something, I'm the first to go get it. Because I want to know what they've done and how's that going to improve things. Now, that causes us problems sometimes by jumping so fast. So we, try to have some systems in place to help that. But the bottom line is, I think the best thing programs can do is to have somebody on the team or who works with the program who does this stuff, who loves this stuff, and can keep abreast of what's going on out there. And playing with the tools and working out, when is it time to update or when isn't it? Hey, here's something new that came out from, G Suite on using your email that you should know about, and little things like that. And then they could be shared amongst the staff, and the bottom line is, there are levels of where people are involved. There are some people that have to use all these tools. There are some who only need to use the basics of those tools. So they can choose whether they dive in or not. So that's number one that I would say is having somebody on the team that can do that. And if you don't find somebody who would be helpful to your program, that will do that. And it obviously takes a while for people to get immersed in what adult ed is all about and all that sort of thing. But I think that's a big part of it, is just having somebody who just loves to dabble with that sort of stuff, work out what's going on. And then the other part of that was like, how do we find things and that sort of thing? I mean, I think there's a couple things to do. Number one, reach out to IAACE, DWD, other program coordinators, and ask them how they are solving this in their program. That's number one for sure, is ask questions of others in the space. But I would say Google it.
Absolutely. But whenever it comes to that, I think a lot of people just don't simply have the time. Yeah. And that's where I will throw it out to all of the IAACE members. You don't have time to investigate something or a tool. Send me an email, tell me what tool it is that you're looking for, and I can either find someone that has already done the work for you and you can hop up with, or I'll do it for you. So,
and in some cases, what we're doing right now is we're building them because there isn't a solution that is either adequate or exists, period. So a little sneak peek. We're deep into the process of building like a CRM for adult ed. So student data that you collect in your programs can all be housed in one very searchable, easy to manage interface that is designed for teacher use and for the program use and that sort of thing. So those are the sort of things that like we've discovered don't exist. So we're just building some of them. And that's not every program is going to do that or can do that. But the bottom line is feel free to throw that to Jen and you know, she'll throw it my way or we'll come up with some things. But there are a lot of great solutions out there that people don't know about. And we'd love to help you find them.
Absolutely. And that is actually one of the questions is how in the world do we keep up to date and how do we know about all the facts and all the things that are available because they simply don't have the time to explore.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say that's whenever you have to reach out to someone because more than likely somebody's got a tool that they've tried. And that's certainly one thing that I learned with listening to some of the presentations from Virtual Institute is the presenters are sharing stuff, you know, sharing things that they've utilized and what they've utilized for and bits and pieces of things. They may not use an entire app, but they'll use a piece of an app because it solves one particular problem for them.
Yeah.
And that kind of information is always good to keep track of.
Yeah. And I would say, again, make the list of things you're trying to keep track of fairly small. Number one, don't make that list so long that you're trying to, you know, you've got so many things that it just takes so long to stay up to date. And then, you know, use some tools to curate content coming to you instead of you having to go out and find it. So there's a tool called Feedly. Let me find the URL for that, feedly.com. And the great thing about it is you can put in topics and different things like that, and it will bring the content from websites on those topics and stick them all into a dashboard. And then you can just go through and read those things. So let's just say you dedicated 15 minutes a week, or even really 15 minutes a month. You could have all this stuff sitting in there and just quickly go through and determine if something's useful or not, and then just spend some time on the things that are useful. That's sort of tools like that where you can have information come to you and then you can comb through it when you're ready. It's much easier than when you're ready, starting to go find it. And by the time you find it, you're like, well, the time I wanted to spend doing this is done.
Yes.
So just something like that would be helpful. You know, there's, you know, I used to use RSS feeds as a way to do that. That's sort of going by the wayside. So tools like this are great, and really most uses you wouldn't need to go beyond the free account to get the info you want from that.
One of the questions that kind of feeds along what we've been talking about is how to solve your own technical problems. What are the things that you should try before you ask for help?
Well,
I know it probably depends on what it is, but
yeah.
I'm thinking most of the time what they're thinking of there is that computer issue.
Yeah.
You know, what should they do whenever it comes to that tablet or that computer? It's causing them problems. They can't get to what they need to get to. What should they do first?
Yeah. So the most common problems that happen is the data that is stored temporarily in order to run that program. And this data stacks up and needs to be cleared out in order to help the machine run more efficiently. And the single best way to do that is to shut down and restart. And that's a pain sometimes, but that's what needs to happen. But there are steps you could do before that. So if it's in a browser, number one, close out the browser. If it's in a program of some type that you're running, close out the program. If you're in a browser, you might have too many tabs open. You don't want to see how many I got right now.
You don't want to see how many I got right now.
I've got two monitors, and they each are handling probably 25 plus tabs right now.
You win.
Yeah, and then I think I have 3 or 4 windows as well. So it's not good, I will say. That's the nature. It's been the nature of my week that I have to be in that zone. But if something's going wrong, I'm like, okay, I got too much stuff open, stuff down. So that's number one on that whole process for me there. Another little trick, if you're finding a website is misbehaving, especially in Chrome. I don't know if it does this in other browsers, but in Chrome it works. Hold down Shift and refresh. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're actually clearing out some of that stuff that is stored and allowing it to reload fresh. So you may not know this about a website. Most websites preset certain information to load onto the page. And so sometimes you need to kick that out in order for it to work properly or see it again. And most of the time, it doesn't cause a problem. It causes a problem for those of us who are building those sites and working with them on a regular basis, but it doesn't cause a problem for the average user. It just makes the site load faster, which is what we want. But that's the problem in there. So you have to balance that. And holding the shift refresh clears that. Restarting the browser and then or a program or something like that. And then the next step in all of that is to restart your computer. And I just so you know, there's a difference between restart and between shutdown and then start again. If you really need to like force the issue, shutdown is more effective than restart. With all of that, shut it down, leave it shut off for about 10 to 20 seconds, and then power it back up again. Because I think a lot of us use our computers and we rarely shut them off these days. That's common now. So anyway, just there's some thoughts on that.
Great tips. Great tips.
Thanks.
One that kind of follows along with that is password tracking.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on, I know personally Chrome tracking the passwords and keeping them in the Chrome, but safety measures, and I don't know if everybody knows about, the ability to go look in Chrome for your passwords, but thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, you cannot use the same password everywhere. A, because most programs won't let you. B, because that's a nightmare from security issue side of things. Can you use variations on that? Yes. What I love about the Chrome browser is it stores those passwords for me. And even if I go on a different computer in a different country, if I log into Chrome, like not logging into my Google account, but if I log into the Chrome browser, it pulls all my stuff back in. And so I am like on my own computer again. Which means that if I'm opening and setting up a new computer, all this is portable, and that is huge for effectiveness. But you do need to be careful. Now, I will say Google has tightened up recently even more. I just had a call a little bit ago with a client, and we're looking at their Google Analytics, and it required me to get a code submitted to my client before I could look at their Google Analytics. So they're getting tighter. So I'm less concerned and less worried about their ability to manage our passwords for us than I would be if you had it on a piece of paper in a book that you carry around everywhere. And yes, some of you, I may have seen that book. I've seen it around. I'd be so worried that I would lose the book and then that would be the end of my life, that I just couldn't live with that. B, the Excel spreadsheet. That's not a very secure way of doing it, because very easy, if you lost your computer and somebody could get into it, they get into that Excel spreadsheet without any problem whatsoever. And so that's a problem. I know you can password protect it, et cetera, but I'm not convinced that that's your best method there. The Google saving or Firefox saving, the browser saving is a good option. I like that. And it is transportable from, like for Chrome, from mobile to desktop. It saves them across all of that. I happen to like a password manager that I think is very nice and useful. It's made by McAfee, who do the security and virus protection. It's called TrueKey by McAfee. Really like that as an option, but that's a paid one. That one you have to pay extra for. It does have an app. They are very secure on how they manage their data and all of that. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I know in my Google Chrome that they tell me when there's an issue with a password. So a site's been hacked or something like that, and I have a password. You should pay attention to those and make changes to those passwords, because that's a potential to open yourself up. The other thing I will say is, if you get an email from somebody you don't recognize asking you to open a document, don't open it. I got 2 yesterday that looked very legitimate, but I doubt they were.
Yeah,
So
those guys are getting good, aren't they
they're
not?
getting so good with their, oh yeah, I did place an Amazon order. I should look at that and see. And my wife asks me this all the time, so I'm going to address this. Opening the email is not problematic. I don't know really how you would be affected by opening the email. What you're affected by is clicking the link that they give you. And what it does is it starts to track your keystrokes that you make, which means it knows you're on a website and that these keystrokes are now your password to get in. It now gathers your access. So that's the problem that we have with that. So you got to be real careful with that. So that's a biggie right there, is to just think about those elements and to make sure that they're all taken care of and all that. And obviously, when you've got a team, a school account and stuff like that, you've got to be careful to make sure that you're not exposing everybody else whose information you have. So I highly recommend a password manager because they are portable. You can use it on a mobile phone as well as on a desktop. So if you're at a computer you don't know, you can open that up. And mine does it with my thumb. So if somebody takes off my thumb, I'm in real trouble to get into my stuff. And then you could look up the password really easily and then type it in on wherever you are. That's a pretty safe way, I think. But making sure that you don't leave a trail and you're not saving it on a device that if you lost that device, somebody would have access to it.
So that includes phones and tablets, because those are things that are really portable and that you often save passwords with.
Yeah. Don't save a notepad or something on a tablet or whatever. For those devices, if you're using a proper password manager, and I believe Google, even if you use Google Chrome, they have an app that you can use that accesses all the passwords on Google Chrome so that you can use those to log in on stuff too. So there's a lot of different ways to get that done, but don't use a piece of paper that you carry around. Don't use an Excel spreadsheet or something that it doesn't have secure access. That's the way you potentially get yourself in trouble.
I think whenever it comes to utilizing the same password and just trying to vary it up, that's often where I get myself in trouble. So therefore I try to use a totally different password for everything, but then I have to write everything down. I'm one of those guilty ones. I write it down.
Yeah, I get it. It's a tough thing to navigate now, and especially when you're used to, I mean, it wasn't that many years ago we didn't need that many passwords. I mean, I can think, I got to think, like, probably prior to 2000, I was teaching at that time. I got a laptop around the late 90s or something like that from the school, and I was like, "Ooh, this is so cool!" And then that was the first time I had to really remember passwords. Prior to that, there was nothing to log into, pretty much. And so from there, it's just gone like this. Probably more like this, in terms of like how steep it is with all of that. So being secure with that, you can't just go use the methods you used years ago and it's all good sort of thing. You got to be secure because you're opening up potential student data, program information, and all of that to the public, and that can't happen.
So just to recap, for those that have just joined us, we talked about the ever-changing technology and a little bit about that. We've talked about how to solve your own technology problems. We've talked a little bit about how you can keep up to date and be aware of new items and new tech that's available, and by reaching out to people to have that time to explore. We just finished up password tracking. And then the last question that I had pre-submitted was basically about any advice on developing habits of teaching with technology. And I think that's really important. I just read an article about how we are transitioning. We just came from the virtual world. Now we're going to be transitioning virtual, in person, maybe a combination of both, hybrid. So any advice on that habit of teaching technology and staying within that realm?
Well, sadly, the first thing is you've got to love it yourself.
Yes,
You
that's
probably
true.
won't teach it very well. And really our whole mission, it's a big part of what Connectable's all about is improving digital literacy of our students. So we're always thinking about how can we help educate people about how to do something in the process of doing it. So we do that when we ask for students to upload their IDs. We don't just say upload your ID and then have an upload field. We actually have a video, a picture tutorial, a downloadable that goes through all the steps of how to take, on your phone, how to take it and upload and all that sort of thing. So I think part of it is in a classroom structure, how can you look at the things that you've got going on around you in the room or that you might access during a lesson, and take a moment to not assume the login, but to talk about the process. So they're about to log into Burlington, right, Laura? Maybe spend a few minutes let's talk about passwords for a moment here. Without having people reveal their passwords, just sort of get a show of hands of maybe how they think about the use of passwords and how strong a password is, and do they use the same password and all that sort of thing. And then just go through some best practices with them about a password for an account. Here's the best way to do that. And if you've got examples you can share yourself, to share those examples and so forth. And then, maybe sometimes to specifically highlight some things that of that are useful. Maybe it could be a place to read more about expanding technology skills, or playing a YouTube video that introduces another skill. Because here's what we know. We know our world today requires certain types of digital skill to survive. We use lots of services that require us to make an appointment online. So if that's unfamiliar, we owe it to our students to help them to learn how to make online appointments and all of that. And you could have a lesson around that shows that experience maybe, and helps them understand that. So online appointments, uploading things is really important to know how to upload, and the quality and type of file and size of file and all those sorts of things are skills that we need. Completing forms and look, I've seen this happen. Somebody's halfway through a form, they leave that computer, and somebody else comes along, and boom, all that data is sitting there exposed with all that. So how do I clear something so that my data is not exposed if I'm using a library, for example, or a computer lab at school, or whatever the case is? Those are all big ones that I think are important to think about. But pull out some special things, but how do you incorporate it into what you're actually doing? Laura, do you want to jump in on some extra things on that?
Sure. Yeah. I know when I train teachers with Burlington, we really highly recommend that they do a digital literacy piece. right at the beginning of, like, as far as like new student orientation, modeling for students at the beginning of class, walking these students through, how to operate a mouse. Now, of course, I'm talking about ESL, but this could be across the grid, operating a mouse, how to log into, different websites. With Burlington, we recommend that they keep their password. We keep the passwords very consistent so that, there's no confusion there. But digital literacy is the key, I think, to a lot of these things, and just and incorporating it throughout your curriculum, and not just one day, but continuously incorporate that. And I think that a lot of teachers now are thinking, oh, we're going to be back in the classroom. We're not going to be needing these digital literacy skills anymore. I don't have to teach on Zoom anymore, so I don't need to know how to do. I've seen so many teachers and so many students really step up their game as far as like doing Google Docs and Google Slides and doing PowerPoints. And I'm just questioning, would that have even transpired if we didn't have COVID? I'm trying to think of the positive. So, I think it's important that we remember that we need to continue pushing those digital literacy skills on our students.
Well, developing a good habit of that is how the problem came in. And I think an idea that I'm not sure if it would work best with, but giving your students the assignment on whatever, even when it comes to those small digital literacy skills, but also if it is about a program or something that you're all utilizing, giving each student in the class something to share with all the other students how they did this, because perspectives and connections are different with everyone. And if someone hears it a different way, then there might be a light bulb for them in that regards.
Partner that with student teaching student. We know that you learn more when you have to teach it than you usually do when you're sitting and trying to absorb it often. So by teaching something to a class and then having students teach it to a partner and help them and guide and see what they're experiencing back and forth is I think an important strategy there. Something that you said, Laura, that I think makes a lot of sense. This is how we're looking at it now, especially. We were used to a certain path, and I've had an uphill battle over the last couple of years trying to get adult ed more digital, and all of a sudden last year everybody wanted to be digital. So I felt like I won a battle, but of course it wasn't me with all of that. But here's the thing now. So people have realized that there's a digital component to what adult ed is now and that sort of thing. So I see it as layers now. What used to be can still continue to happen. And, we work with programs in a variety of states who have differing degrees of ability to work with students still today. Indiana's, much more open than some states are in that regard. But if at such a time down the line, there comes a period where we have to be remote again, you're well prepared for that now instead of scrambling like you may have done in the past. But more importantly, that layer effect means that now you have another way to work with and to reach students that you didn't have before. We've heard stories about students who struggled with the class times, the rigidity, if we want to call it that, of a 9:30 or a 5:30 class that did not work for their schedule for work and that sort of stuff. But with the flexibility of a couple of classes, opened the door now to an opportunity for them to plug into adult ed that they didn't have before. And so it's about looking at what opportunities can we have by having a digital and an in-presence components to our program versus just being in person again. That's where I think there'll be greater value and greater potential for adult ed going forward.
Neil, I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit. I was in a training last week and I had a teacher share with me what she did with her students. Same exact schedule. We know how adult ed learners are, their schedules are crazy across the grid. She actually recorded her virtual classroom and then uploaded it on YouTube. So then that way it was more accessible for the students who were not able to watch it or be physically present. And then they had links. So yeah, it's amazing. I think yeah, we've really stretched our digital literacy skills as teachers. So
and we've certainly pushed that with the programs we're working with the tools that we've got them plugged into now. Students are facing this from the outset, at the very beginning of their introduction. They're being introduced to some of these things, and I believe that will strengthen us as a community as a whole.
Absolutely. There was a question in the chat from D Bowling. How can you tell if you have a keystroke monitor on your computer, and how do you get rid of it?
The number one thing I do, well, first of all, you usually can find out that things are not acting the way they used to. That's number one. It usually affects the effectiveness of the machine. It feels a little throttled, if you'd like. So that's sort of identifying it. The easiest thing I would do is install and run the free version of Malwarebytes, bytes with a Y, Malwarebytes. That's a good piece of software that you can have on there that you can run. They make another one that's a little more aggressive that I wouldn't necessarily suggest unless you really are like having to kill something that won't die. And I got to look it up because my brain has had too many things put in it today.
She does have Malwarebytes, she
right.
says. So,
and then I mean, if this is something you're seeing is happening regularly, you probably want to get the paid version and let it run regularly and check a little deeper on stuff. What is this called? I cannot think for the life of me.
it'll come to you in a minute.
I always install it when I don't do a lot of this, but I do have to help people with their computers sometimes, and this is one that I install when things are going very bad. I'm on their site, so I'm just able to do a quick look here. I'm sure I'll find it.
While Neil's looking, go ahead and submit more questions through your chat. Neil has something prepared for us, as well as something else that came in from his other workings that he's going to share with us. But if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in chat while he is searching for that.
I'm not finding it, of course. So you know,
we can always come back to it, and I can tag it onto the YouTube. We do put all of our tech talks on YouTube as well as our webpage. Therefore, there's always the ability to go back and listen and watch again, because we are super exciting.
We are. This is, you know, what did they say? This is must watch TV.
There you go.
All right, I can't think of it. I got to leave that out of my brain right now, but it always bothers me when I can't think of I found it just when I gave up.
There you go.
DW Cleaner. A for Apple, D as in dog, W as in, what is W? I don't know.
Where?
There you go. ADW Cleaner is the tool. It has a little picture of like a bug being attacked.
All right.
That one's a little more aggressive and will clean out a bunch more things. So those are the things that I use and recommend, and I don't usually go much beyond that. There's one called CC Cleaner that I've installed on my computers before, which is good. The one thing it annoys me though is it clears the browsing things that I've remembered too regularly for me. So stuff I rely a lot on going back on something that I looked up 5 days ago and forgot to bookmark or whatever.
I do love my history.
When you do that, you don't have any more history. You're in trouble. on all of that. So, but that is another good one on that side of things. So I'm not a fan of pre-installed stuff on a computer because usually it just slows it down. So I always remove the pre-installed. And for a virus, I use the free. Actually, I'm now using on a PC. I use whatever comes with it from Microsoft. It's Windows Defender or whatever, just Microsoft's product. You know it's not going to slow down because it's just part of the operating system. So, all right, yeah. So I'll jump in and if you could give me sharing rights, please.
I'm sorry.
We're
I
just going to
thought you
share a
already had
little
'em.
system that we've built here in the last little while that I thought might be interesting for you to know about, and it's something that you can easily sort of replicate on your own. So this is for Wayne Township Adult Ed. We've got it actually on a couple of other of our client sites as well. But this is sort of pretty exciting because they do a graduation. It'll be this Saturday, and we have one problem right now, and that is we have more people that want to be at graduation than we have availability of seats. So I'm not sure how that's going to happen. We're going to have to stack people or something like that. But anyway, what we did is we sent a message out, text message, because we find that to be the #1 most effective way to communicate with students. And we sent a text message out and asked them to come back to this page and RSVP if they were going to be coming to graduation. And this is the page. Here's all the information that's on it. They could download a printable version of the graduation details and all that sort of thing. And then it's about the tickets and location and all that sort of stuff. They're actually giving away some things, so that's sort of cool. It might have inspired some more people to respond. But as you get down into here, we've got a form set up, and this form asks the basic questions. And typically all you'd be doing is sort of like those first few. Who are you, and are you going to attend, yes or no? Well, we've taken that a step further. We're asking them what they're going to be attending for. Then we ask some of these questions that are actually required pieces of follow-up information that DWD asks right here from the students as they come into this. This was sent out. 380 students were invited. Over 270 have said yes, that they are coming through this, and more importantly, have completed all of this information that's being asked for, which is about a 75% success rate, which is awesome on all of that. But there's questions about whether they actually have these things now, whether they are a citizen or not, their employment status. If so, we ask details about that employment. If not, then that's simple. Have they participated in any of these advanced options after program? When they click submit, they're actually redirected to this site, which is actually inside one of our portals. And it's what we call our Share Your Success Story portal. And we have it there for all students regularly that they can go to. But this is a way to collect success stories. And so they're able to put their name, phone, email, which program they've been a part of. And then they have a chance to write, answering these couple questions. Or they can upload a video or a photo of themselves as well in here. And then also give permission to use that. There are some people who've shared stuff and said, I just want to share it with you. I don't want this to be public. But most say, yes, feel free to on all of that. And then they're able to submit that. And then that comes directly to the program. And they are now absolutely jam-packed full of success stories for any marketing efforts to share with DWD, et cetera, through all of this. And all we did was just ask one more question in the process of getting people through the RSVP. It was just a very simple thing. And if you were to go back to this page here, down the bottom of the page, here are the slides that the program has made, using the content and the image that was shared from the success story to tell the story of what has happened. with them, the program. So this is pretty cool little strategy that you can put into place. This will actually be running on the screen prior to the graduation, but we've also got it embedded. See, we're using Google Slides for this. Seeing it's a tech talk, I'm going to give you some of the strategy behind this too. We're using Google Slides for this, so it's being built in Google Slides, and we are embedding this into the website, so nothing has to be updated. You update the Google slide, the slideshow updates. That's tip number one on this, because that makes it so much easier. This is a copy and paste job, though. I will say this is not a automated fill in and that, because some of people wrote like a book and we had to condense it down. Some people wrote maybe a little hard to understand exactly what they were trying to get across, and we had to help facilitate that. But I thought that was a pretty cool thing that's had great success. You could use Google Forms for this. We use Gravity Forms on our websites, and this is what this built with. So we can use conditional logic and do a number of things with it. These are also automatically sent to the right person in the program, so they know about it, and so forth and so on as well. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that, because that's a pretty exciting little piece there that talks about the process of having, structure. Because one of the things that I've worked with, because I've worked with Wayne Township for a number of years, is on don't take RSVPs over the phone. Why? Because you lose data and things drop off. And I bet you couldn't get all this out of a student over the telephone. So what we do is, if they call on the phone, we send them to the link to go get to fill in the information. If they walk in the door, we give them a computer or a tablet and say, complete the information. If they go through the link on the email, it goes straight to this page. So that's an important strategy in all of that, is to be consistent across the board, so you don't have to worry about what I've seen in some cases is, well, person A who answers the phone keeps them on sticky notes. Person B has them in a book. Person C doesn't write anything down and has forgotten all about it, etc. And that's a problem. So this is another good thing out of it. Anyway, just thought I'd share that, because this is a pretty cool little success story of how to use some technology to effectively achieve your goals in your adult ed program. So that's
awesome.
That's what I got.
That is fabulous.
Yeah.
I love that success story. I think maybe I need to put that on our page.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm always begging for success stories.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, this is an easy thing to have there regularly, that you can just drive people through. And in our enrollment portal, they are assigned the success story as part of what they are doing in there. So it's always there, and they can go anytime. And when we talk about teachers helping to bring technology into the student world and all of that, what we've been asking teachers to do, and what actually probably in Wayne Township's case, life coaches are coming into the classrooms and doing, is they're helping people to log into their portal, find the success stories, and be able to work through that and complete them as part of the skill set of going, oh, okay, so in my dashboard, I have a number of different things that I can be doing and working on, and that sort of thing. And, this is how this works, and this is how we get there, and so on. So, and, one last thing on this whole topic of teaching technology, you don't have to be the expert in order to do it. It's probably good to know a little bit more than maybe your students potentially will. And you probably will always have a student in there who'll know more than you. And my strategy for that when I was teaching was put them to work. If they start to indicate that they know all about this, say, thank you very much. I appreciate you volunteering. Will you help these students to get up to the same skill level you are? And most of the time, they'd be very happy to do that. But turn them into using it for good, not for evil.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we will take questions live at this point. If you guys want to unmute yourself and ask a question, feel free to do so. You can even come on camera and give us a reaction or a wave, however you want to do it. Oh,
Well,
Sarah
hey,
has
we
a
got a very
question.
brief wave there. That's good. That's good. A very brief wave.
I didn't mean to pop right back off.
No,
This is great.
so good.
I'm really happy that you've had these. I checked out a few of the archived talks. I'm with National Geographic Learning, so I'm on the other end of this, not using the technology, but working with instructors to select materials for their ESL learners.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to hear the particular challenges to adult learners, because so much of this technology has the added barrier of the language piece, and helping instructors troubleshoot. Jen, I appreciated your question about what can I do before I ask for help, and not that you, I'll speak for myself, but I think many people in my position would say, go ahead and reach out. But it does seem, it happens to me too, where you just feel like, well, there's got to be a simpler way for me to figure this out. So I like talks like these. They help us all understand that we're in the same boat.
Well, and we all have that challenge. I have that challenge. I had the challenge this week more times than I can count. Now it's in a different spot of everything, but you know, just I've got to go get help sometimes because I reach the limit of what I know. And we all have that, and having some resources, and you know, just being able to search something on Google is very helpful. That can be confusing sometimes because you get too much information, but just the fact that you can do that does give you a great flexibility to be able to solve something maybe quicker than you once could. And that's the key right there, I think. So, well, thanks for joining us, Sarah. Appreciate you jumping in there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if we have no more other questions, we covered some great stuff about the ever-changing technology, and Neil had answers. And so thanks, Neil. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no worries.
Just note for July, we will not have it at our regular scheduled first Thursday in July, mainly because of me. I think Neil said something about it, but I'm going to be camping that week, and I don't know how well my internet will be at that camping spot. So therefore, I'm not going to try.
That would be fun to see you out camping while we're trying to, you know, a bear walks by or something like that. That'd be must-see TV for sure.
Yeah, that's must-watch TV. Exactly. Jennifer getting eaten by a bear.
No, I mean, just as the bear walked by would be cool.
I'm just teasing you. You never know what's going to appear over my shoulder next time.
Well, I think it's July 4 or close to anyway, right? So,
yeah, it's that holiday week. So we can just postpone and do it in August, or we can reschedule. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I'll have to look at my calendar and see. Okay. It's possible that I'm going to be challenged in the early part of July.
Yeah, I understand, with the holiday weekend and all.
Yeah. Yep.
So that does it for Tech Talk Thursday with the ever-changing technology. No one else but our own Neil Richmond with Connectable. Thanks for joining us. Ta-ta.